Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another League of Legends guide video. In today's video, we're going to be doing a guide on Nasus. So welcome back guys, I hope you guys are currently enjoying the guides that I'm doing these days. You know, it's becoming a bit of a problem when I said that I was going to do it every week, but it seems like these are very time consuming to actually edit. So firstly, before we go on into the guide, I just want to say thank you so much for actually getting me almost to 200 subscribers. I already think by the time I upload this video, I'll be at 200. And then, yeah, I think I'm going to be considering doing something because I haven't really done anything even since 100, and I feel like shit for not doing that. So thank you guys so much. I have been pretty much editing these videos like on most of my day. Like the funny moments and the guides, most likely they take about, I don't know, a few hours. They really do take a few hours. So that's why the guides are not going to be really common, but I'm trying every single week, even though they take like a week or two for me like to upload on this channel. But every single week or two you'll be getting a guide, just so you guys know that. So let's just ignore me and well, we're not gonna ignore me on this guide, but we're gonna ignore me on the past stuff. So anyways guys, we're gonna be getting into the Nasus abilities, and we're gonna be talking about him as well. We're gonna be concluding him, talking about his build, talking about his runes and masteries, and we'll be summarizing him up for you guys as well. So the first thing you need to know about Nasus is he is a top laner, a top lane tank who actually develops his own damage, which is part of his kit, and it's actually really nice for actually, you know, you just mess up your opponents, because this guy is not scary when he is fed. He's only scary when he stacks a lot, and I'll be getting a lot into that. First off, we're gonna talk about Nasus's passive, which is Soul Eater, which is not really worded that much, but Nasus drains his foe's spiritual energy, giving him bonus lifesteal. So every few seconds, when you hit an opponent, you get some of their health, and it gives it to yourself. You get like these particle effects, as you can see on the bottom left. It gives you like these particle effects, which shows that their health is going to you, and you can use that every single time. Well, I think it's every few seconds or something, because every few seconds when the green kind of essence comes out from them and goes to you, that's when their health goes to you. So now we're going to talk about Nasus's Q, which is his main thing about him. So his Q is called Siphoning Strike, with a cost of 20 mana and a range of 300. Nasus strikes his foe, dealing damage and increasing the power of his future siphoning strikes if he slays his target. Nasus's next basic attack will deal damages from 30 to 110, and Siphoning Strike permanently gains 3 damage if it kills an enemy. This bonus is doubled against champions, large minions, and large monsters. So this is your main thing in your kit that you're going to be looking over at in Nasus as well. So your Q, you have to stack on minions, much like Veigar, but you got to stack on minions and even cannon minions and monsters and stuff like that. If you stack on them, you will get stacks for it, and your stacks are above your kit. It shows you how many you have, so you can see how much damage you do. Like you get 3 per minion kill. So if you kill the minion with your Q ability, you'll get 3 stacks, and that counts even with enemies and monsters. Well, enemies and large monsters, they give you the double the effect, but if you kill normal minions, you always want to try stacking. But if you don't have your Q up, just auto attack the minions and just farm up, because you don't really need to always try stacking at your mana. But it's worth it actually having to use all your mana and your Q only for stacking. And stacking with this guy, if you're crazy good with it, you do insane damage, and you're unstoppable most of the times. But a lot of his damage does come from Siphoning Strike, so this is one of your main abilities, and you got to make sure that you use this properly, and make sure you're good at lasting as well, because once you start building up, it doesn't really matter. It gets to the point where you can just Q it to the, and then it will get one shot. Like you'll get used to that once you play Nasus a lot. So now we're gonna move over to Nasus's W, Wither, which has a cost of 80 mana and 600 range. Nasus ages an enemy champion, decelerating their movements and attack speeds over time. So this ability slows the enemy's movements for 5 seconds. It's an insane amount of CC on this guy. So CCing your enemies will be so easy as point and click press W. Like, this thing slows them down so much that not even a flash will be good enough to escape for a jungler's gank. When a jungler comes to gank, you use Wither, and it will slow the crap out of them. They won't be able to run or anything unless they have QSS, but I doubt a top laner would go QSS when you're against Nasus. So Wither's not easy to run from. You either go and fight Nasus himself, or you have to do something else, because Wither is not easy to run out of. But if you have any CC reduction like Mercury Treads or anything, you'll be fine, but it's not really that fine when this effect is on you for 5 seconds. So this is most efficient when you don't want your targets to run away from you, and for when your jungler needs to gank you. It will insanely slow them down for you, and you can chase your enemies pretty much when you're in range with them. So now we're going to talk about Nasus's E, which is Spirit Fire, which costs 70 to 130 mana with a range of 650. Nasus unleashes unleashes a spirit flame at a location, dealing damage and reducing their armor of enemies who stand on it. So this is going to be a really good ability for your Siphoning Strike as well. When enemies are standing on this, they do take some damage, some AoE damage, but also, as it says, it reduces the armor of the enemies who stand on it. So that really means that as long as they're standing on your E and you use Siphoning Strike, which is your Q, it will do almost double the damage when they're standing on Spirit Fire and you press Q, because their armor is reduced and you got your stack damage right on top of them, and it does kill for a lot. But this is also a nice ability for sometimes clearing off the wave a little bit. It's not really quick at clearing lanes, but it's good for killing the minions that are very low. But it's always best to just save up your Q to keep stacking rather than using your E to clean off the lane, unless you really need to. So now we're gonna move over to Nasus's ultimate, Fury of the Sands, which costs 100 mana and has a range of 20. Nasus unleashes a mighty sandstorm that batters nearby enemies. While the storm rages, he gains increased health, attack range, damages nearby enemies, and gains bonus armor and magic resistance for the duration. Nasus becomes empowered in the sandstorm for 15 seconds. So every time you do upgrade this ability, you get more health for when you press R. So when you press R, it gives you health. It's much more like Renekton as well. When you press R, it gives you health. And you can use this for snowballing someone in a fight. They'll be thinking, oh, this guy's low, but once you press R, you'll gain a bit of health to at least do a bit more damage. But it's always best if your enemy is very strong. You gotta activate your ultimate first, use your E, which is your Spirit Flame, and then pressing Q. Now that does almost triple the damage of your Q alone. It just all depends on how many stacks you have, so that's pretty much that. So now that we've talked about Nasus's abilities, we're going to be talking about his build. So over here on the screen, I do have this these two builds and also an elixir of iron. So the only reason I have these two builds is because they're the ones that I mostly use. I also found these on Mobifire. This is a build that I found from someone, which is also a build that I follow as well, and it's actually a really good build. So the top build is normally what I would go, but sometimes it's debatable and if I would take Righteous Glory or not. I might trade it out for something that helps me. Like it's more situational. It depends who you're going against. Like if you're going against Teemo, you're definitely gonna need a Spirit Visage. But one of Nasus's cores is Iceborne Gauntlet. This thing is really good on Nasus. It reduces his cooldown by 20%, also gives him armor, and the cooldown of his Q is reduced, so he can use his Q a lot more. Then you can build your general items like Guardian Angel, Deadman's Plate, Ninja Tabby, and Righteous Glory. Now the only reason we're not building any kind of damage items in the top lane is only because Nasus builds on his own damage, which is his Q. His Q generates his own damage. You don't need to build damaging items. I've seen people build damaging items on Nasus. Sometimes it's okay, but if you go something like a Bloodthirster, that's even okay. But if you go something that just damages but doesn't really benefit later, it's not going to be a good item. So it's not really good going like an Infinity Edge or a long sword on Nasus. It's always good to build up your own damage by stacking on the minions themselves. And then after every single build, after you're done with every single build, you always going to go for Elixir of Iron. You always want to finish off with that, just so you get the extra armor boost, and so you can resist against your enemies more, and you can kill them more, and it makes it more fun. Now, the bottom build is actually items that you can use situationally. You can use Warmog's armor. It really depends on how much health you want, or if you really want to be the regenning crazy Nasus you are. Or you can get Yomu's Ghostblade if you want to run at your enemies. Like, I'm not really too sure about Yomu's Ghostblade, but it's a nice item. It's a nice item. You can also go Sunfire Cape. It's just like Deadman's, but instead, it's just a different passive. And then Titanic Hydra is always up to you. You can always auto attack clear lanes with this as well, and you can also use your Q while you're piercing your enemies and just use it as active. Frozen Heart is also a good item. You get the armor you need from it. And Triforce, that is completely up to you. You get attack speed, you get the mana you need. You won't run out, because mana is a problem for Nasus only when you are focusing on stacks, because most of the Nasus players out there, they don't really go on their enemies early in the beginning. They always look to stack so they can actually build on their own damage. Even people, they use their whole mana bar just for stacking, and that's really efficient for Nasus, because once you build as much damage as you can, you will be crazy late game, and it just depends how you play it yourself. So now that we've talked about his build, we're just going to move over to his runes and mastery. Now, these are the runes and masteries that I have gone with Nasus. So the runes that I go with Nasus are 9 marks of attack damage, 9 seals of health, 3 quintessences of cooldown reduction, and 9 glyphs of cooldown reduction. Now, these runes can actually be changed up a little bit. These are my runes that I have activated only because having cooldown reduction early does allow you to stack up more, and it will also mean that that you have to buy less cooldown reduction items that are not really too necessary, like Yomu's Ghostblade or something. But the early cooldown reduction does help you get more stacks later in the game, and it actually helps you carry and tear down towers, because the 9 marks of attack damage will help last hit minions when you're queuing. And then you got your health, which is pretty much always needed on Nasus, because he's always needing to be tanky, and then he builds on his own damage. So the Masteries are actually on the left as well, and the reason I put 5 in Intelligence and went Storm Raider Surge is because you get the early cooldown, which is 5%, and we can sum up to 45% cooldown reduction with this Mastery page. But this doesn't mean you always have to follow this kind of Mastery or runes. Well, the runes, the cooldown side, this runes and Masteries page are both cooldown heavy. Now, the only reason I did that is only because of the stacking idea. But if you guys don't want to do that, the best thing you want to do is go for Seals of Armor, Seals of Health, Glyphs of Magic Resist. But your Quintessences can still be cooldown reduction because you already generate your own damage, so you won't need damage. You really don't need attack speed because your Q is basically your damage that you're doing to everyone. Your Q is the base, the main thing that you're going to be doing damage with, because your auto attacks don't really deal that much, and your Q will even tear down towers, enemies, and other people. That's why I had made a Masteries and Runes page for heavy cooldown reduction. But you don't have to follow this, but you could also go on the Resolve side and go for Grasp of the Undying if you really want to, because that really does help on Nasus as well. So now that we've really talked about everything on Nasus, he really doesn't have any combos or anything, so we're just going to summarize up about Nasus. So like I said in the beginning, Nasus is a very tanky and strong person. Really, when you stack your Q on enemies, minions, and anything you really can, your stacks are very, very crucial on when you're playing Nasus. They're going to be the most important thing in your kit as well, so you got to make sure that you go to, as soon as you start your lane, wait for the enemy minions to hit your minions, and then you just slowly begin to start stacking with your Q, last hitting them with your Q, and you'll get 3 stacks per minion kill. Now, if you want to know if you're doing good or bad with the stacks, I match it up always with the time. So let's say, for example, it's already been 10 minutes in. I always expect myself to have at least 100 stacks by 10 minutes. And then by something, like, we always times the number by 10. The number of minutes, we always times it by 10, and that's how I expect myself to have that many stacks. So whenever it's been something like 17 minutes, I always have to be at a minimum of 170 stacks. I always see myself like that. I always put my stacks and try to keep them in front of my time, just so I know that I'm doing good in stacks as well. So yes, this really does mean at 300 minutes, I have to be at least 300 stacks. That's like killing 100 minions with your Q. But also killing enemies, you do get double, so you'll get 6 stacks for killing enemies, big monsters, stuff like that. But Nasus is not really a jungler type, but you can just go in there late game and you can Q the Krugs, you can get a bunch of stacks as well like that, and the Q is gonna be the base of your kit. But when you're engaging into a fight, you always need to use your E, which brings up the AoE circle, which is Spirit Fire. You gotta use that to reduce their armor and stuff like. So this means if you're going against a tank, it's really gonna be useful for reducing their armor, and you can actually use your Q. So you can use your E to reduce their armor, and you can use your Q to kill them, because it reduces their armor and it makes them more weaker. It's much like having the old exhaust. Like, it slows them, it decreases their armor, so it really helps, and you can penetrate them more with your Q. And then once you're doing that, you can use your W to make sure that they don't escape your circle. The best thing you want to do is try to keep them in your circle while you're trying to penetrate them with your Q and other abilities, and maybe even your auto attacks. That's when Triforce comes in, and you can still do that finishing little blow on your enemies. So you commonly want to take the 2 spells as Teleport and Flash. Teleport is really useful for getting back on the lane, and you can quickly stack again once you're back on. But here's the thing, when you're going on the top lane and you're going against ranged people, it's going to be a very big problem for you. So if you go against the top lane Quinn, there's one problem for you, but it's an AD problem. But if you go against a Teemo, which is probably a Nasus's nightmare, you really want to start off already building into magic resist, because remember, all your damage does come from your stacks. It doesn't come from all the builds that you do. Even if you went full build, it wouldn't matter, because you need to make sure that you start stacking, and you got to do it as much as you can, but make sure you do it only when it's necessary. Don't sacrifice your teammates for your stacks. Make sure you always go help your teammates. Make sure you don't let them die, and keep track of the map as well. Make sure nobody's coming into lane and stopping you from stacking. But here's the thing, when you have a good amount of CDR, you can actually stack the minions under your tower as well, so you can farm safely under your tower, which helps really good against the Teemos and stuff, because as long as you can stack during the game, as long as nobody's stopping you from doing that, then you're going to be indestructible late game. But if you're ever going against a Nasus and you are playing as Nasus, what you want to do is you want want to race him. You want to race that other Nasus from getting stacks. You got to make sure he doesn't get stacks and you do. If you're playing a pre-made game, you always make your jungler. Make sure your jungler comes up and ganks to make sure the other Nasus slows down on stacking and make sure you get ahead, because if the other Nasus is ahead, it's going to be a big problem for you, and then it's all about racing on who gets the most and who's good at their timing and who gets more cooldown reduction so they can actually use more, so they can do more damage late game. But if you ever do go against a Nasus even as a ranged champion, you really want to try keeping your distance, because he will use his W a lot to try drawing you in and trying to kill you, and most Nasuses do use their W for when a gank is coming in, because W is really good for slowing your enemies, and it's actually good for getting the ganks done properly, and it also is good for baiting out spells like flashes a lot. It really does bait out a lot of flashes. Now, one final thing that you want to know about Nasus, which is the best thing about Nasus, is his power of tearing towers with his stack. Nasus is amazing. He's so amazing. His Q ability, which allows him to stack when he has a lot of stacks and he Qs towers. Let's say, for example, you had about 300 stacks at 20 minutes. With one Q, you'd probably do 1/8 of the tower's health, and it does destroy it a lot. If you had about 1,000 stacks, which does and probably will take a game to like 50 minutes, you can tear down a tower within 3 hits, 3 to 4 hits. It will either, your Q will probably take a quarter or a third of the tower. It's much like being an AD Ziggs, but because you have so little cooldown from your cooldown reduction runes, masteries, or build, tearing towers will be no issue for you, and you're like the best split pusher that's on the freaking Rift, and that's the best thing about Nasus. And he's also really strong, and aside that, I really do think he's a good champion, although as you can see, I'm playing with the Infernal Nasus skin. I think you want to really be careful with that skin as well, because that skin is very buggy. But anyways, guys, if you guys enjoyed this guide, if you guys want to see more guides like this, then go ahead in the comment section below, guys. I need you guys in the comment section below to tell me a bunch of things. And I'm also taking suggestions on what other guides I do and everything, because I've also received a few comments on what guides I should do, and I'm actually going to take in some suggestions as well. And I want to give you all the chance on who I want to do a guide on next. But yeah, that was pretty much it. That was everything about Nasus I could discuss to you, and that was every little detail I could give you about him. And go ahead in the comment section below and go ahead and rate the guide as well. And if you guys have any better tips than I do, go ahead and put it in the comment section below. Go be blunt. Be blunt as you can, please. I want honest opinions, and I always do, and that's what I really like about my guides. My Veigar guide and my Shen guide did get it a lot, and I'm really happy that you guys are being honest as possible, and you're leaving your tips below as well, and I really do want that from you guys so I can improve on my guides in future. And thank you guys so much for almost hitting me on 200 subscribers. But anyways, guys, make sure you subscribe, make sure you're always updated and everything, because I'll be uploading a lot more as well. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this channel. Hopefully you guys will be joining me in future videos, because I'm going to be editing a lot and I'm going to be uploading a lot of videos. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace, guys, and see ya.